Hi, so listening to Sky News, they're talking about AstraZeneca anniversary. It was a year ago today that the UK became the first country in the world to administer this. And listen to this question.
Vaccinations. There has been a lot of misinformation out there. How frustrating is it for you as a scientist who's been hugely involved in the science of vaccination all your life, to see some of the stuff that is repeated, usually online, and what impact do you think this has had? Has it actually caused people to die who might not have died?
Well, there's no doubt that anything which makes people uncertain or hesitant about being vaccinated, particularly those who are in vulnerable groups, that puts their life at risk. And we've definitely seen the effects of some parts of the commentary, some of the misinformation, which have had a major impact on people's confidence in vaccination. And so there's no doubt in my mind that during the course of the last year, some people will have died because of misinformation.
Well, that may be well possible. I'm not sure if you could prove that or not. But unfortunately, I guess the people who are dead wouldn't be able to tell them that I've been misled. So I don't know where he would quantify that, but yeah, I guess there will be some people. But the thing is like he says in his preamble, is that, you know, anything that gets in the way of people getting vaccination. Well, the reason why people are fearful of vaccination, it isn't just because of misinformation and the internet, social media, which is what the TV media is trying to put out there, that social media is a bad avenue. Because the reason why they're scared about social media is because social media is in everyone's hands at the moment, and everyone is a journalist, and everyone can capture live events and stream them. Of course, the channels like Facebook and YouTube can censor that if they want, and Sky News censor a lot of stuff, you know, especially when it comes to terrorist attacks. They don't show them. They take a long time before they show us this information. Whereas if you check on Facebook, YouTube, anyone that's around in the area can show you that. Anyone has a voice. Anyone who's been abused has a voice. The Me Too movement and all that kind of stuff is because of social media. And that's why the system is so scared of social media and so scared of that freedom of thought, freedom of message. But this isn't, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm not trying to say I've had my vaccines. What I'm trying to say is the reason why. What is the reason why there's misinformation? What is the reason for these people that believe? I mean, some people, yes, it'd be because they're shock jocks, because, you know I've seen that on YouTube in the Flat Earth movement and in the Truth movement, or woke movement, whatever you want to call it. There's lots of people that just want to be famous, and that goes with Hollywood as well. But on the internet, they want to be famous, so they talk about anything that's, you know, like shock jockish to get views, to, you know. And some people, it's because of they've been misinformed, or because of their not willing to research information. But there's a lot of people out there that are valid and that have genuine claims and validity and have done research and are putting their view across, because they're saying that, wait a minute, this disease is not as bad as the media is putting out. Yes, people are dying. People die all the time. You see, that's the thing. That's the thing that you're not being made aware of, because they don't make you aware of it. They don't give you every day. You know, if they treated other diseases and other things that cause deaths in with greater numbers than COVID-19, then maybe you wouldn't have this inflated idea that COVID-19 is such a big danger. Yeah, it's a danger, but it's probably not as big a danger as being run over in the street by an automobile, or being killed by having a heart attack because of the bad food and lifestyle that we have, because there's no proper regulation of food. Yeah, there is regulation, but it's not stopping supermarkets filling stuff with cholesterol abundance and things that are unhealthy, that we all know is unhealthy, cigarettes and alcohol and all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of cancer and cancerous things, carcinogenic things that we all know are carcinogenic, but they're still out there for you to buy. So there's lots of these deaths. If they actually put it in proportion, you would see that, wait a minute, actually COVID, yes, at the moment it may be higher than some of them, but in the general terms, you know, it's a lot lower than the death rate, which I've mentioned in previous Pursuits of the Truth. But what I'm trying to get at is that the reason. And like you said, it's important to get to the why the misinformation, and the other people who are misinformed or maybe are putting their view across because they don't see it as such a threat as the media are putting across, or other people, is because of previous events and the system itself, and politicians and scientists and pharmaceutical companies who have a very tainted respect because of the things that they've done in the past. You're asking, this is like the boy who cried wolf, that story where the boy doesn't know it. He says there's a wolf, he's pretending. He says there's a wolf again, he's pretending. He says the third time and it is true, but no one believes him. That's why there are people that are spreading the misinformation or are wary of the vaccination because of previous, especially like with in Africa and India and places like that. You read the stories, the historical, accurate stories that pharmaceutical companies and scientists and governments, the way they, I think there was what was it doing in Africa? It wasn't sepsis, it's syphilis. I think there was a vaccine trial, very famous. There's lots of where they misuse. There's lots of even with AstraZeneca, where were the majority of people tested. There were some tested here, but there were a lot of people tested in South Africa. Why? So the thing is the people who have researched these things have seen there's multiple stories with pharmaceutical companies, with Primados, with the vaginal mesh, with the breast implants, recently, all these things, with the Prince Andrew case, with Jeffrey Epstein, with lots of these abuses within the church, within trusted people, abuses at the tobacco industry. Do you remember the tobacco industry used to claim that there was no problem with tobacco, and there were pharmaceutical companies and doctors and saying that and because they were bought. And they were misusing their power. There's a lot of that misuse of power within government, within science, within pharmaceutical companies, because of money, because of the profit that can be made by lying or misleading. So the thing is, you're asking people to believe when you have a system that is allowing lies and misleading. And so, yes, now there may be a genuine case where, yes, everyone needs to take this vaccine because we want to save everyone's lives. But wait a minute. The problem is with that is that everyone knows that governments do not prioritise the saving of lives around the world. That's why other countries, especially African countries, are maybe a bit more scared of the vaccine or have hesitancy because of the past and what's happened, and also the past that they're living in the Stone Age while we're living in the technological age. And that's out of choice, because that's the way the system is. We're giving them money, but we're charging them more debt. So they never get out of that problem. We all know that, living here, but imagine a whole country living like that. Not that there's any country that doesn't actually live in debt, is it? But this is the problem, you see, the historical problem, and the fact that we live in a system where there's so much corruption, and then there's so much lies, with politicians. Tony Blair just got knighted. The man who led us into an illegal war. Kofi Annan said it was an illegal war. We all saw it as they were trying to find a way to get Saddam to fail so that they could get in there to have a touch of the oil or could change the infrastructure because of power. They didn't want Middle East getting higher, same as like they're trying to with the climate change in China. This is why it's difficult for people to trust people who are awake to the fact that we don't live in this rosy-tinted world. We live in a world where the 1% of the people have all the money and have all the power and control, and people are suffering every single day. And there aren't countries that are doing anything about that. Yeah, they're giving little bits of aid, but that aid doesn't take away the debt that they have to give back afterwards. They're still living for hundreds of years of aid. Countries are still living. You go and see the pictures, you see them on TV, what it looks like. It doesn't look like here. It doesn't look like New York. It doesn't look like the West. Why the countries not had their infrastructure built up? Afghanistan, Iraq, they were invaded. Usually, during the Second World War, when Germany was when the war finished, Britain and America had to pay and rebuild the country. And look at Germany now and Berlin. It looks You know, it's brilliant looking, clean. So, but why is Afghanistan and Iraq still looking so bad? Why doesn't it look like here or New York? All these countries around the world, all this information, humanity's already worked out. So you're asking people to forget about the actual truth of their living, their actual experience of governments, of pharmaceutical companies, of scientists who do things for their own benefits, who do things for their own country, that put their country first, not humanity first. And then you want them to trust you when previously they haven't been trustable. When we see with the media, and they cause the problem maybe more for the pharmaceutical companies, because media always, anyone who's studied journalism has been taught about who, what, where, when, why. The idea is to make a story stand out, is to make it juicy. They're never, the famous maxim, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. This is the problem as well, because they want breaking news. They want you to see, 400 people dead. They want to make you fear. Fear sells. We've all seen 1984. We all know how it works in Animal Farm. We all know how that works. Breaking news now, everything's breaking news. Every weather event is a weather warning. Even now, a little bit of wind or rain, there's a yellow alert. These things are done to put you on that edge, and we know that's a misuse of fear, and because the media is whipping it up to something that it isn't, because that's their job, that's what they have to do, that's their moneymaker, is to make a great story, is to get you to sit on your bum and watch the news for 24 hours every day, to get scared. So because they don't rationally put things, because they're always trying to do it like the shock jock approach of media, of news telling, that then of course creates people to think that, wait a minute, well, this isn't true, because I know that these figures are not as bad as they're saying, or not that they lie about the facts, but the way that we all know, anyone who works with numbers or MI and stuff like that knows how you can create an image that isn't true by making sure you have a certain amount of days, or the way you present the data, and etc. So you can be truthful, but create what you want to create if you do it a certain way. Like, for instance, if they told you how many people died of different things in perspective to COVID-19 on that day, you may think, well, wait a minute, how dangerous is it? Are more people dying of heart attacks because of their bad health choices, because of the things they're eating, because every single day they're buying these things that got too much cholesterol, sugar and salt in them? But you're not worried about that. But that's probably more of a concern, especially these people who are 50 plus. It's probably more of a concern than COVID-19. So that's what I'm saying. That's the truth of the matter. The reason why that these people have this fear of government, have this fear of pharmaceutical companies or doctors or scientists when they're saying, put this in your arm, is because previously they didn't care if you lost your home and you're put out on the street because you didn't have enough money, because you run into debt. When the whole fucking system that we live within, every single country that stands, I don't think there's any single country that doesn't borrow more than it has of its GDP. We all know, we've seen the figures like hundreds of millions or billions or trillions or whatever that we're in debt. And I'm sure even America as well. But they're allowed to carry on. They're allowed to be bailed out. They're allowed to keep their jobs as government, even though they've taken more money than they're paying back. But the banks will still lend to them. But the governments who want to save your lives from COVID-19 by having this vaccination, which gives a lot of money to pharmaceutical companies, and they are making a profit, or some of them, and they're making good PR as well, but it is that they don't care when you're put out on the street. Don't care about the children that are dying or the abuse that's happening within their own system. Okay, when they find out about it, after hundreds of people have told you over and over again, this is happening. Look at Jimmy Savile. Look at these other cases where they were told time and time again, and they still didn't do anything about it until too many people came, and then they have to do something about it. We all know how that works at work. How when you say something, you just get ignored until you say it too many times, or to a few other people, or someone important says the same thing, and then suddenly it has credence. or because someone turns out a favour and then suddenly, yes, I want something against that person, so I'll use it. So that because of these failings of the system, these failings of humanity, you can't expect people to believe when the system is lying so much and doing so much wrong. I don't know. That's my view on it anyway. I don't know what you think. Take care, take it easy, God bless and peace.